chocolate box and thank you all for stepping into the talk. Today is super, super special. It is the day of love, Valentine's Day. And today in the talk, we have two people in the hot seat. They've been in a relationship for a long, long, long time. But before I let them introduce themselves, y'all know we have to start with an icebreaker. So, our icebreaker for today is if you could only eat one candy for the rest of your life, what candy would it be?
If I could only eat one piece of candy for the rest of my life, it would definitely be a lemon head. A
And
little
why would
sweet,
it be?
a little sour.
If I can eat one candy bar for the rest of my life, it would probably be a score. A
A
lot of people
school.
don't know about it. Yeah, a lot of people don't know about it, but it's like chocolate with taffy in the inside, hard taffy. But it's pretty good though.
Okay. And as the audience can see, y'all have two completely different answers on the opposite end of the spectrum, which lets y'all know that we could potentially have two different people. So I want y'all to introduce yourselves to the audience. What's your name? What do you do? And our first question is, what is one thing that you love about your significant other? Of course, also add in how long y'all been together.
So my name is Davinia Reed. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Houston Museum of African American Culture. One thing that I love about Marcus is he makes me laugh. He brings out the silliness in me.
I'm Markus Reed. I am the lead man at Economy Polymers, an oil company that makes different products for oil, and I work in the shipping and receiving department. And one thing that I love about my wife Davinia is that she's a person who's loving, will give her last, and she would never give up on you.
Okay. And of course, how long have y'all been together?
This year going to be 21 years, plus the time when we weren't married. That's just how long we've been married.
Okay.
So I like to tell the story when I was in seventh grade, eighth grade. When I was in eighth grade, Mr. Reed was dancing in front of my class outside the door while I was in English, Miss Perkins. I still remember he was trying to get my attention outside the door, and he definitely captured my attention.
I got it.
And I can remember my teacher saying, she saw me looking out the door instead of looking at her. And she walked to the door and she saw Marcus standing outside the door. And she's like, Mr. Reed, stop being a buffoon and go to class. So it's been up and up from that day forward.
Yeah.
All righty. So 21 and some change. That is what a lot of the viewers of the chocolate box kind of strive for. I think that's what everybody strives for when we talk about Black love. When we think about Black love, we tend to have this idea in our head of like the Martin Luther King and the Coretta Scotts, where everything on the outward looked perfect. However, as we know from like the memoirs of all of these people we dream to be, there's an inner working and there's challenges and trials and tribulations that got you all to this point. So, as you've already told the story, Marcus, kind of tell me how the thought process was falling in love, because a lot of times in the world that we live in today, they do not allow Black men to express their emotions as much. So to know that you fell in love and you stayed in love for like 21 plus years, how did that feel? How did that story work?
Well, it was really my my motto really is just let stuff happen. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. You know what I'm saying? If you got God on your side, if that person has God on their side, you know, that you can't help but to fall in love, you know. I mean, you treat each other right. It ain't all been good. And there's nobody. Show me one person who has a perfect relationship, you know. I don't think you can find it. But at the end of the day, that's love, you know what I'm saying? Like and I'm also a musician, so a lot of my songs I have that in there. You know what I'm saying? Don't nobody know what love. You can't touch love. You can't see love. It's just a feeling you have. You know, and when you have it, and you know you have it, you know you have it.
Since we're talking about the feelings of love, so for y'all to, what does love feel like? Since you said that we're dealing with a feeling, a lot of times when we think of love, a lot of us think of like self care because we're on a big self care wave now, and not a lot of us know how to approach the feeling of love. So, how did it feel for both of y'all to fall in love? What was that feeling? Was it like butterflies, or was it like the cliche cloud that happens in the beginning of movies where it's like, pause, this is how I got here? What did love feel like for y'all?
So for me, love felt like I definitely had the whole butterflies thing because when we were in middle school, well, once we journeyed to high school, Marcus moved away.
Oh, yeah.
So I felt like my love was snatched away from me. And then from there, I went to college in Atlanta. And then just one day when I came back to Houston, I went into a facility because I was teaching at a daycare, and I had promised my class that I was going to buy them pizza. And so I went into a facility and I was like, "Hey, do y'all have change for $100 bill?" And no one in the facility had change for the $100 bill for me to buy my kids the pizza. And then just as I'm walking out, the guy said, "Oh, wait a minute. Marcus, do you have change for $100 bill?" And he said, "I think I do." So when he comes upstairs, we lock eyes and he was like, "Hey," and we realized that we knew each other, and he asked me like, "What you be doing?" All those type of things. And even in that moment, I still remember that day to a T. Like he asked me what I was doing later on that day. I told him that I was gonna go swimming. He said I might come through after I get off work. He came through after he got off work. I remember him rap. He said he was a musician. He rapped his song Victoria's Secret to me. And I still remember that. And that's like my favorite song out of all the songs that he produced and rapped. Victoria's Secret just has this special place in my heart. And then from the pool, we went to IHOP. He watched me eat. He didn't eat, but he began to tell me about all the years that he was in Baton Rouge. He told me that he had two sons and how proud he was of them. And from there, it just snowballed. And like for a long time, my family didn't even know his name because I just called him baby. It was baby this, baby that. No one knew his name to the point where when we would go over to my grandmother's, my aunts would say, "Baby." They would call him baby because I never called him by his name, but it was definitely like butterflies. It's still butterflies to me. Sometimes when I see him, I get this ooey gooey feeling in my stomach after all these years. And I'm like, should I still be having these feelings? But it's amazing. I
Okay.
think it's
When I when I the feeling I had to fall in love was just really just just uh just passionate and somebody that really just cared about me, you know. I had, other relationships, but it wasn't that feeling, you know. I mean, it wasn't all bad, but then at the end of the day, when I ran back into Davinia after so long, it was kind of the last person that I was with leaving Houston, and I'm like kind of the first person I was with coming back to Houston. So, and my thing is always everything happened for a reason. So you can't turn your head or a blind eye on nothing like that. That ain't nothing that's just a coincidence, not to me, just my opinion. Everything happened for a reason. So I just feel like it was just meant to be. And I ain't never the person to hold back on my feelings, you know. If that's what I feel, that's what I feel. And can't nobody change it, you know. So I just feel like, it was just, I mean, a great feeling of having someone there to care for, having someone there to care for you, that'll have your back, a ride or die. That's what we call it back road, the ride or die. And I feel like that's what she was. So that just made me fall in love even more throughout the year.
Aw. So y'all was
I'm a
on.
ride or die. You heard that. We Bunny and Clyde before everybody started saying Beyonce and Jay-Z. We was in this thing.
So y'all are talking about being ride or dies, and that's something that like the term was coined, and now everybody is saying that everybody's ride or die. Can y'all describe to us what it takes to be somebody's ride or die, since y'all have technically been ride or dies for 21 plus years?
So for me, being a ride or die is being up in your spouse's corner no matter what, never giving up on your spouse, always being there, open and available for your spouse. I think that's what ride or die is for me. And I mean, even though I've been ride or die, I don't think I've always been open and available because I've been, I get involved in a whole bunch of different projects, but that's what my definition of ride or die is.
And my definition is pretty much the same thing. Have that person back regardless, uplift that person, you know. I always look for positive. It ain't always gonna be good. It ain't always gonna be positive. But at the end of the day, I always think about the positive. That would get you through the bad time. So I just feel like, just ride, ride to the wheel fall off, regardless.
Remember, you used to say we riding like cut off stockings. What you used to
Four flat tires on the Chevy. You down like four flat tires on the Chevy, you know?
So I like, Davinia, that you hinted to there's sometimes as your significant other, you kind of fall short. Um, and one of our deeper questions is what was a time that you kind of fell short in your relationship? Because a lot of us, we're transparent about the love and the great and the glitz and glam of Black love, but we're not necessarily transparent about the downfalls of what has happened um, to get us to where we are. So, what is a time where you felt like you had a downfall in your relationship, and how did y'all come together and blossom and continue to go?
So I think my biggest downfall, and I'm sure Marcus is gonna agree with me, is gonna be my communication. Um, I'm not really a communicator. I'm more of a show you type person as opposed to telling you. Like, I don't I don't necessarily have I don't think that I should have to say I love you, I love you, I love you if I'm showing you I love you, I love you, I love you. So
Mm-hmm.
I think my so it might be learning your spouse's love language because like I said, I'm not the best communicator. I'm starting to work on that now more than what I've done in the past 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to make sure that I express my feelings um so that Marcus understands where I stand, but also understand I want him to know that I understand what he's saying as well. So just to be I fall short in the communication area, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell short in the area of trying to force what you don't like about a person and just force them to change it.
Mm-hmm.
As if just, oh, I don't like this. You need it, you need it, you need it. But at the end of the day, it's just up to that person, and God, to change that person. You can't never change a person. You can't make a person change. So I feel like that was like my downfall of just pushing my thoughts on the video and the things I didn't like, or even the communication. Oh, you don't communicate, but everybody ain't everybody. It ain't just one person in this world. We all different people, so you got to give people time to really search themselves and see if that's something they want to change, or is it even worth changing for the spouse or the person they with, or you know. And I feel like everybody has different times. Everything having a different time, different seasons. So just because you caught it that quick don't mean this person gonna catch it that quick, and it's nothing wrong with it. A lot of people do they feel like it is, because I feel like you supposed to been changed, but hey, it don't work like that all the time. So I feel like that's my biggest downfall, just trying to push my thoughts and what I don't like and get a person to change on my time when it ain't really nobody's time, it's God's time.
Now, I love how you hinted on seasons. And a lot of times when people are in love, they don't take it to the fact that your relationship is going through a season and you as an individual are going through a season. So you might be in your like, oh, I'm in my bag season, whereas your relationship is kind of hitting that rocky season of like, we're working it out. What advice can you give to those who are also figuring out themselves while they're navigating being in a relationship and being with somebody that they actually want to be with forever?
I look, my advice is you met the person who you met, you fell in love with that person. So I always remember that. You know what I'm saying? Because people tend to, you fall in love at first, and be good for so many years, and then you start seeing stuff you don't like, but you've been through that all the time. Love just didn't have you seeing it. You seen it, you just overlooked it. So if you can overlook it then you know what I'm saying? I ain't saying overlook it till you meet the grave, but at the end of the day, I always remember you knew who you fell in love with. You know what I'm saying? And if you didn't like it, you wouldn't never fell in love. But if it was a big problem, you wouldn't have felt. That's why, like I tell Davinia and a lot of my people that I got advice from an old guy. I don't remember his name when I was in Baton Rouge, but I was a young cat. And he was like, if you're in a relationship, if it ain't nothing, whatever y'all into it about, whatever the problem is, if it ain't nothing that y'all gonna break up or split up about, then nip it in the bud and let it go. And I feel like that's the best advice I can give anybody in a relationship. If you think about it as something that you say, okay, I can't take it, I'm gonna leave you right now, then leave. But if it's something you just gonna keep on thinking about, but the good times outweigh that, then nip it in the bud and let it ride.
Hmm. That gave some really great insight, especially when we're talking about, get over it and kind of like forgive that person.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is like a big part that a lot of people don't necessarily talk about, because when we look at people's relationship, we tend to either look at it from a really positive gaze of, hey, they're doing this, they're doing that, couple goals, or we look at it from a real negative gaze of, they're doing this, they're not doing this, they're not doing this, they're horrible. However, as we saw with Beyonce and Jay-Z, anything can happen in any relationship, no matter what your tax bracket is, no matter who
Yeah.
you are. When it comes to figuring out how to forgive, because a lot of times it shouldn't be something that we have to talk about, but a lot of us are struggling with forgiving our significant other. When it comes to y'all and when it comes to forgiveness on y'all's end, how do y'all navigate forgiving somebody for something that potentially could have hurt you, that they don't know hurt you, or that they do know hurt you?
So in forgiving is something that I struggle with. And I don't think I necessarily struggle with the forgiveness part. I struggle with the forgetting part, because when you forgive, you're supposed to forget. And I tend to feel like if I forgave you for something and you turn around and you do that exact same thing over again, then it's like ripping a scab off. I can't heal from it. Um, but I definitely think that if you're going to be in a marriage, if you're going to be in a relationship, forgiveness is a must. Now, like Marcus was saying, you can't rush somebody to feel a certain way. So, whereas he may forgive me over before the night ends, it may take me longer to forgive him. Does it, so not to sound too cliche or holy roller, but the Bible says that you shouldn't go to bed with wrath on your heart, which means that we should be forgiven every night, which is in essence what he says. However, for me, it's a little bit harder. It takes me a little time, but I feel like every human operates on their own time. But if you can find it in your heart to forgive, then it's worth it. It's worth it. I mean, especially if you love that person. I think Marcus has forgiven me several times, and I've forgiven him several times, over and over. We both have.
So
I just, I just feel like she said, and she actually took the word out of my mouth. They said don't never go if you're in a relationship, marriage, whatever you're in with a significant other. Don't never go to sleep mad at that person because you can go to sleep mad and then they not wake up and then you feeling guilty the whole time. Well, I could have said something. You probably went to sleep. I said I love you. You probably went to sleep, screaming and fussing. I wish you did. But then tomorrow ain't promised to nobody. The next second ain't promised to nobody. So you sitting up mad and then this person dying, they sleep. And then you wake up and then whatever you was mad about, does that really matter? Does that even hold weight? You know what I'm saying? So that's the only reason that I said that's something that goes back from my grandma. Don't never go to sleep mad at your spouse, significant other, whatever. I mean, you ain't got to. You can use that advice in anything. Don't ever go to sleep mad at your mom. Don't ever go to sleep mad at your brother. Don't ever go to sleep mad at your friend because if that person was to die tomorrow, it wouldn't even matter. You'll feel real bad about yourself. So that's just my advice.
So those are two very interesting perspectives on forgiveness, and I definitely agree with like not going to sleep with that on your heart. When we look over the past few years, a lot of people have glorified specific relationships, and I've tended to like the relationships that are real and that are raw. So would y'all say that y'all are like the real and raw relationship that like when people come up to you and ask you a question and be like, hey, how did y'all do this? Hey, how did y'all get through that? Are y'all that couple that people come up to that know like they're real, they're raw, and they're gonna lay it on the table?
I think we real and raw.
Yeah, we just go by in different ways. If people ask me advice, I'm gonna give them, like I said, it ain't no sugarcoating, because I don't want nobody sugarcoated to me. If you're doing something wrong, you're doing something wrong. If you're doing something right, give them their flowers while they can hear. So it's just, I mean, a lot of people be asked advice, and like you said, they just want to tell about the good points and the habit times no, they don't make a relationship. What makes the relationship is the hard times. That's when you know who gonna ride with you. That's who gonna know who's down for you. You know what I'm saying? You can't if it's all happy, then you ain't got nothing to be like, okay, well, I wonder if this happened, will we stand the test of times? But you don't know because everything been happy and peaches and cream. So you got to go through the rough times to see, who gonna maintain it and who there for you and what a love, how far the love stretches. You can't be telling nobody all the time that asks you advice about habit time. Oh, you need to do this. Go have fun. Go do this. Go do this with each other. Nah, you gotta tell them about the bad time. Because when it get rough, then that's when you at the urge and the verge of breaking up and no more talk to a person. You leave when you're mad and cursing each other out and I don't even want to talk to you no more. And then from there, it's just gonna be more and more and more separation, more and more division, more and more getting further apart from that person.
So hot topic on the street is that a lot of people now are having these days where it's just solely for them and their significant other, whether it be a self-care day, whether it's like we're going out and actually doing something. What is one thing that you all like to do together, that y'all enjoy just sitting there doing it by yourself or going out and doing it together?
A lot of stuff, really. She
What's
don't
y'all
like
top?
fishing, but she will go fishing with me sometime.
I
Okay.
do.
You know, sit around watching movies, just sitting back and laughing and just enjoying each other, you know. That's some of the best memories I have is us all in the car or us going somewhere and just laughing for no reason, just being goofy, being yourself, you know. That's the best time to me. You know, be yourself. That's my thing. Be yourself. Whoever don't like it, hey, you ain't got to be around me. You ain't got to call me. You ain't got to hang around me. But that's a lot of problem with the world that everybody you could be with your significant other, and then you go in a different room, and then your whole attitude change, and then your attitude might be changing towards your spouse, but you're not really knowing because that's just what you got to do around that room and in that room and around those people. But
Mm.
I'm the person like I'm gonna be me regardless. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, hey, you ain't got to even look my way. You know what I'm saying? So certain situations, you supposed to tone it down a little bit, but don't just change and people don't look at you like who is you? You know what I'm saying? And that's just me. I mean, be yourself. That's the best time we have when we just being ourselves, being goofy, laughing. You know, with us and the kids, and that's some of the best time we have.
I would have to agree with that.
So you mentioned y'all like sitting down watching movies. If you could describe your relationship as a movie, think about like the whole genre, what movie would your relationship be? And I want to answer from Davinia and from Marcus, what movie pinpoints? And that's like, yeah, when I think about relationship, that's the movie.
Want me to answer it
You
first?
can. I'm still thinking.
So when you said what movie, I immediately thought about School Days. And simply because sometimes in our relationship, we want to be, we're part of the wannabes. We want to be a certain way. And then sometimes we're part of the jigaboos. It is what it is. Like, it's just what it is. So I would relate our relationship to School Days because in the end, if you remember, he says, wake up and realize that we're all in this together. So in the end, we have to wake up and remember that, hey, it's me and you. We in this together. We ride or die. So School Days would be my movie.
Mm, well, I wouldn't say a movie.
Why you not
I
gonna
would
answer the
say,
question?
but I mean I can't think of no movie, but I can think of a TV show.
Okay.
A lot
What
of
TV?
people think I'm crazy, but I would say Martin. For real though, because I mean, Davinia is like the Gina. She goes to all these she can be in the room with anybody. You know what I'm saying? And Martin is that person that's he happy go lucky, goofy. I want to make everybody smile. He's hard work. He grinds. You know what I'm saying? But like I say, they have their good time. They had a bad time. But throughout the whole run of the show, they were together, you know what I'm saying, with love, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, that's what I was. I can't think of no movie, but as far as a TV show, I would say Martin.
Okay, those are some dynamic answers. So both of you chose a movie and a series that had heavy hitting points, especially when it came to relationships, right? So one of those points is the main characters that we know that we love go through this really big conflict that almost makes them be like, you know what, I'm throwing in the towel. Have y'all had a conflict where it was like I'm throwing in the towel? And if y'all don't mind, can y'all share how y'all got through this conflict, whatever the conflict was?
So we absolutely have had times where we wanted to throw in the towel. Um, I think it's been definitely for me like 3 times that I wanted to throw in the towel. Um, just to be transparent, and I don't think Marcus will have a problem with me sharing this. One time it was to the point where I was like, what? I can't say we, because he's always said, nope, I'm not doing it. But I was like, I want a divorce. So we went downtown because we was going to get a divorce, right? So as we're going downtown, I'm so sure that once we get downtown, we're gonna be able to sign this paperwork and it's gonna be over. But when we get down and we went downtown in 2 separate cars, everything. We get downtown, we get inside the courthouse, and when we get inside the courthouse and we get to the window, the guy tells Marcus, we don't do that here no more. Ever since COVID, we don't do that here anymore. So when he said that, it was kind of like, what? What you mean? This the courthouse. What you mean y'all don't do it no more? But both of us, we left the courthouse, and I think I took it as a sign that God said not so. And I think he took it as a sign saying God said not so. Because he's always said to me, I'm only getting married one time and I'm not doing no divorce. So I think that would be my answer. Like that's one of the rough times. But as you can see, we're still together.
I would agree with the same time, but I would never give anyone that advice for a divorce because a lot of people who are married or in relationships, they believe in God. And I always say that, with God, anything is possible. So you just really going off your emotions and what you feel right now. But at the end of the day, it's like if God wanted you to divorce, if God wanted you to divorce, you would do it. You know what I'm saying? I don't think God wants anyone to divorce. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you might get married to the wrong person because you get married for the wrong reasons. But at the end of the day, if you married for all the right reasons and you feel like God put you together, then God should be able to keep you together. You know what I'm saying? That's how I work through it. I try not to go off emotions to those extremes. You know what I'm saying? And that was just one time when I was just like, okay, if you feel like you want to go do it, let's go do it. But at the end of the day, like you said, I'm a avid believer of, if God don't want to happen, it ain't gonna happen, and it didn't happen. So.
And it looks like it was a big sign with the court saying, nope, not gonna happen today.
Exactly.
That's definitely not in the plan.
We went to the family court where they do it in. So.
Nope, not gonna do it.
Exactly.
So now that we've talked about all of the real serious things, the juicy stuff that everybody want to hear, what is a moment in y'all's relationship that you would say is your favorite all-time moment? If you could think of your top three, it'd be the top of the list, but it wouldn't be number three. It'd be definitely number one. What is your favorite moment of the relationship?
So I'm guessing my favorite moment.
It's a lot to look through. It's 21
It
years.
it is
My favorite,
definitely a lot.
well, I know my favorite moment was the wedding. That was my favorite moment. You know what I'm saying? Because we had our oldest daughter. You know what I'm saying? All the family was there. You know what I'm saying? And that was the first time I ever got married, and I really wanted to get married. I
That was
really
the
wanted
last
to do it
time.
right. Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. That was like my favorite memory.
So I think my favorite memory of us. Well, now since he said the wedding, um, I think my favorite memory may have been the birth of our firstborn. Um, because it came with some complications, but he was so excited. I was really nervous, but he was so excited. But it was in that moment that once the baby was born, I remember him saying to me, he kissed me on the forehead and he was like, you did an amazing job. I'm so proud of you. And I don't know what it is. I get really sappy and I'm not an emotional person, but whenever he tells me that he's proud of me, like it does something on the inside of me. I can remember when I had my shoe launch and when we were on the way to the launch He looked at me in the car as we were driving down 610, and he's like, I'm so proud of you because you did it. And it's something about when he tells me that he's proud of me, like those moments just I hold near and dear.
Aww. So getting into the family aspect of it, a lot of people are struggling. A lot of Gen Zs, Gen Xs are struggling with the thought of having time for yourself and your spouse while balancing having children. You all have two children. How do you balance having time for each other as well as, having family time and being with your family?
So for me, I was terrible. Both of our girls are in college now. But as they were growing up, I can admit that I was terrible about balancing the two because I wanted to advance my career. So that was number one. Um, and then I wanted both of the girls to be actively involved because I wanted them to be well diverse and be able to adjust in whatever situation. So I was constantly running to the school or running to an extracurricular activity, going to a pageant, just always doing something. And it made me neglect Marcus for some time because I was pouring so much into the girls and I wanted them to be such great human beings. So I didn't realize how I was lacking as a wife. So I'm still trying to find that whole balance right now. Now that the girls are both away in college, I still try to I think I try more now to make him feel special. Um Tell him I love him often because he likes to hear I love you. He doesn't just want me to show him I love you. He likes to hear it. So I try to make sure that I'm doing that often. But yeah, I think I sucked growing. I mean, as the girls were growing up and balancing everything.
Uh, I just I just try to balance about just the little things, you know. I'm always the one like, let's go watch a movie, you know. Let's go just sit outside, you know. Let's go to the park. Just simple stuff. I mean, you can always balance your time. You might not get as much because you have kids, and when you have kids, you got to put all the focus on them because you want them to be better than you were, you know. But at the end of the day, it's just the little stuff. You ain't gotta go do no major stuff. Just to spend a little time with your spouse. You know, let the kids go to grandma's house or go to their uncles or aunties' house just for a couple hours and just go spend that time with that person. Because I mean, it's definitely needed. It definitely needs.
Now, as we're approaching our last question, of course, I'm going to have y'all back for part two because we have a lot to get into. But the last question is my favorite question to ask anybody on the chocolate box because self reflection is the best type of reflection that we can do. So, if you all could say something to each other back when y'all first got married with all the wisdom that y'all have now, what would you tell each other?
Hmm. Um, I would definitely tell you that no matter what, we're gonna try not to be mad at each other by any means necessary. We're gonna we're gonna stick it in to the end and never. And well, I've told you that anyway. We're never gonna break up or get a divorce out of that. So I will tell you that again.
Um, so my younger self, what I would tell you is I'll never give up on you because I know how much potential you have. I know how great you are. So I would never give up on you. Um, I think that you're amazing. Looking at you in your eyes, it makes me want to express to you that I'll never give up on you. I'll never give up on us. Um, like Pastor Lot said, we all we got is each other, and I hold on to that. I hold on to that even more so with the girls being gone. But if I could tell my younger self, I would just say, don't give up, don't push him away, don't nag all the time, because he's gonna get it. We're gonna get it. Neither one of us knew what we was doing. We were young when it all started out, and we still young, even though we in our mid 40s. But I I just I love you, Brett.
Oh, well, that wraps up our episode of the talk. Y'all definitely dropped some really good nuggets. So y'all tell us down in the comments, what is one thing that you would say to your significant other when y'all first met, if you knew what you knew now? Thank you all for stepping into the box, and I hope that y'all come back for our next episode of the talk.